Well, hello. I have had the worst luck at finding waterproof boots that are comfortable and actually waterproof. I've tried a lot of different hiking boots, and the only ones that I could find that were both comfortable and supported my feet sufficiently were the Ultra All-Weather boots. The downside to these boots is they aren't actually waterproof. They're more kind of like water resistant at first, and then they're just not at all. So one of the comments that was suggested to me was to try waterproof socks. And so I did get a pair of waterproof socks about a year or two ago. They were the sealskins, and I never got to try them out because I think I just lost them during one of my moves somehow. So I ended up buying a pair of socks on Amazon, and they are the DexShell socks. And somebody had recommended them, I think. I was thinking about getting another pair of sealskins, and someone recommended these instead. So I went with these, and I noticed right away they were a lot more comfortable than the sealskins were. They seemed to fit my toes a lot better. The sealskins ones, they seem to have a lot of extra fabric around the toes, and it was made it so it was a bit bunchy around the toes. But these ones were very comfortable, and I took these on about a 10-mile hike, and it was a very wet, kind of snowy hike. This winter in New England has been a particularly wet winter in that we would get a lot of snow, and then the next day it would warm up and the snow would melt so that you would be post-holing through it, or it would be like mushy. And so this was really the winter where you needed a good pair of waterproof socks. What I noticed was I took these on one of these hikes where I was post-holing every other step. And so my boots were definitely getting wet, water soaked in immediately as I expected. And I had these socks on. My feet managed to stay dry enough for a good portion of the hike where I didn't really notice my feet getting wet, but then I definitely started to notice it on the way down. But they didn't feel soaked, it was more just like damp. And but by the time I got to the car, I was like, okay, yeah, my feet are definitely wet. So I couldn't wait to get these off. So these didn't really seem to be waterproof. So I ended up, I had another pair of socks on my Amazon wish list that I had seen in a YouTube video where the person who was reviewing it actually did say that they were waterproof. So I was like, okay, well, this person says that, we'll see, we'll put it to the test. So I had these on my wish list, and my sister bought them for me for my birthday. And I did take them on another hike, which involved wet snow and post-holing, and I noticed the same thing. They were not waterproof. They were water resistant, and like I said, like, they don't feel soaking wet, but by the end of the hike, they definitely wet. I wanted to put both of these pairs of socks to the test and see, how long does it take for the water to actually soak through? Would these be more appropriate on a shorter hike where you're not going super long or long distances? Or would you maybe want to look into a different option if you're going on a longer hike? I'm going to go downstairs to my bathroom, and I'm going to put these to the test. So see you down there. All right, it already feels cool, but that could just be the temperature kind of soaking through. I feel like a little bit, maybe water's getting into the heel. I would say my feet aren't really wet yet. My heels are wet. So I think the water might be getting into the back of them. But my toes feel dry. I've been standing in these for about 3 minutes now. I'm thinking what's happening is that water's getting into the heel, and then, I'm wearing these over so many miles, over time, water starts seeping up toward the toes. And I can tell now I'm feeling water now more toward the sides of my feet. So I think that's what's happening, is it's kind of gradually making its way forward, starting at the heel. And, you know, since I'm taking these on longer hikes, I might not notice right away. You know, if I stepped in a puddle or something, it doesn't feel wet right away. It's more just like wearing them over time. It's been about 4 minutes now, and the backs of my feet are definitely wet. Definitely wet. Toes, not yet, but I can tell that, you know, in another 5 minutes, if I were to wear these, they would be wet. Okay, so I just took off the left one, and I'll show you the inside. It doesn't look or feel soaking wet. I'm touching it to my face right now. It feels damp, and that's sort of like, that's all it takes, I think, for your feet to feel wet, is just like this dampness. It's not like they feel soaked. It's just kind of an uncomfortable, like, my feet feel kind of soggy kind of feeling. And I feel that when I touch the inside. The outside is definitely soaked. That is very wet, and water, it does soak through into the fabric on the outside. My feet are like slightly damp. They're not soaked, but they feel like, you know, like I've been wearing damp socks. These next ones are the RandySun, also from Amazon. These ones, they're not as comfortable, I think mainly because there's a little extra fabric up here. So they kind of feel a little like bunched up at the toes when I'm wearing them right now. The other ones definitely fit my toes better. Similarly to the last pair I tried, I noticed a cool feeling right away. And it's just because the water's cool, so the temperature kind of soaks through. But in terms of wet feeling, I'm noticing kind of a similar feeling as the last ones. Actually, in fact, I'm noticing that I don't just feel the damp at my heels. I feel it kind of in the top of my toes and a little bit on the sides, like on the outer sides of the sock. So these ones actually, I thought these held up longer when I took them on my hikes, but it could just be the trail that I took them on maybe wasn't as wet, because I definitely feel more water in these ones than the other ones. The interesting thing, you can kind of see that this top fabric isn't soaking through as much as down here. I think maybe because that's just not in the water as much, but there is some kind of water resistance to this fabric. It's not, you know, waterproof, but there's some sort of water resistance to it that this isn't soaking through right away. It's been about 2.5 minutes so far, and still the same thing. Backs of my feet and the sides, the outer sides. I thought I felt something on the tops of my toes too, but actually I think it's more kind of like around the middle of my foot that I'm feeling it. But there is a dampness. Still though, the bottoms of my toes are dry. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what made it feel like they kind of stayed drier longer. Because I think maybe my toes are a bit more sensitive to the water. Okay, not really any change in this last minute. I still kind of feel that dampness in the same area. These ones, I don't know that they really have soaked through to the rest of the sock as fast as it seemed like the other ones did. All right, so I've given this 5 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and take them off and take a look at the inside. Yeah, same thing. I kind of feel like a little dampness, but it's not soaked through. It just kind of feels like a little damp. The outside's definitely soaked. Try the yellow one. Same thing. The fabric is dry, like the outside fabric, but there is sort of like this damp feeling to it. So there you have it. Still don't think these are 100% waterproof. I definitely felt like they were damp inside after I took them off. Although they don't feel soaked, so it's still better, I think, than wearing just regular socks. What I will probably do in the future, since I don't just have endless money to keep buying new pairs of these, I'll probably end up taking both pairs with me on a longer hike and changing into dry ones mid-hike so that I go a little bit longer with having dry feet. And then of course carrying a regular pair of socks and shoes for the car ride home so I don't have to ride home in wet feet. If you've had a different experience with any of these socks, I'd like to know that too. If I just got a bad batch, I seem to be a little unlucky in the waterproof department, so I wouldn't be surprised. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the trails very soon. Just as a quick update, it is the next day, and I noticed when I left these out to dry overnight, and I checked them this morning, the insides of them were wet. So they did eventually soak all the way through. So just something to keep in mind, that these are eventually going to soak through.